Discover the incredible fortune I received. How my life changed forever the day my child was born. Jamie stared at her newborn son, Felix, cradled in the crook of her arm, and felt an ocean of love wash over her. It was a love so profound it made her heart ache. She couldn't believe how such a small being could flip her world upside down. Yet as tears of joy blurred her vision, they mingled with a sharp sting of fear. How would she provide for him? The reality of being a single mother hit like a thunderclap. Her heart raced with determination, but her hands shook from the weight of responsibility. Her days bustled with endless movement, the clattering of dishes and the murmur of regulars at Betty's diner, where she worked mornings, and the food truck shifts in the evenings. Each moment was a juggling act of nap times, diaper changes, and a relentless search for extra tips. Dirt under her fingernails was not just a mark of hard work, it was the symbol of her struggle and resilience. Jamie grew up around veterans she knew about grit and determination. She clung to those values, pushing forward even when the room spun from exhaustion. She wanted better for Felix, a life far from the shadows of judgment that loomed over single parents in their small Midwestern town. Just as Jamie thought she was finding her footing, news hit that the community center, a haven for at-risk youth, was on the brink of closure. The thought felt like a punch to the gut. She knew it wasn't just a building. It was a lifeline for kids like her son might one day be full of hopes and dreams. With her nurturing spirit ignited, Jamie rolled up her sleeves. The idea of losing a place that meant so much to so many haunted her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As Jamie stood in front of the crowd during the town meeting, adrenaline surged through her veins. She fought to keep her voice steady as she spoke, the air pulsating with the weight of doubt from some corners of the room. "This place matters," she cried, her voice cracking like fragile glass. "It saves our children." But then the jeers came, mocking her, questioning her worth. "What do you know about running a business?" Someone spat from the back. The laughter echoed painfully, making her want to crumble. Those words dug into her like sharp knives. Still, she fought on, the need to create a future for Felix shimmering in her heart. But as support withered and judgment grew louder, Jamie teetered at the edge of despair, caught in a web of vulnerability and strength. "Isn't it just a child's dream?" The whispers hissed, challenging her resolve. She felt her pride flicker like a candle on the verge of being snuffed out. Here she stood, a fierce mother, but would that be enough? The fight for her son's future felt like an unending battle, one she could not afford to lose. Would she find the courage to lift her head and keep pushing forward, or would the weight of expectation drive her deeper into the shadows, away from the light of hope? Jamie walked off the makeshift stage, heart racing and frustration boiling within her. The sounds of laughter still echoed in her ears, cruel reminders of doubt and cynicism. She fought back tears, blinking against the stinging pain, not just for herself, but for every child who needed hope in their lives. As she slipped through the crowd, Jamie felt more alone than ever. It was as if she stood on an island in a sea of judgment. Yet she couldn't let the setback define her, not when Felix needed her. She caught sight of a mother cradling her own child near the exit. The woman's smile split the tension in the room. It reminded Jamie of why she fought. That connection, mothers united in purpose, fueled a flicker of defiance in her heart. Back home, after a long day, the flickering light in Felix's nursery warmed her spirit. She watched him sleep, his tiny fingers curled around the blanket. How could anyone deny that he deserved a chance? She tiptoed closer, leaning over the crib, feeling an overwhelming need to protect him. A wave of new determination washed over her. She wouldn't let doubt snuff out hope. The following day, Jamie decided to go to the community center, the lifeline she refused to let fade away. If there was any chance to rally support, she would find it. She spoke to old friends, neighbors, even strangers in her diner. Each conversation was a fresh shot of adrenaline, and every sympathetic nod urged her on. They remembered how the center had touched their lives. Some shared stories that brought tears to her eyes. Maybe if we all come together, she urged, her excitement spilling over, her voice filled with raw emotion. Ideas flowed, and plans began to swirl like leaves in an autumn wind. A bake sale, a car wash, even a charity concert, every possible avenue explored. Days turned into nights filled with preparation. Neighborhood kids pitched in. They crafted colorful signs and flyers. As Jamie watched the young ones band together, determination coursed through her veins. It wasn't just about the center anymore. It was about bonding with the community over a shared purpose. The day of the bake sale was electric. Tables were laden with cakes, cookies, and pies. The smell of freshly baked goods drifted through the air, drawing in passers-by. Jamie felt a sense of joy swell within her chest as soon as she saw familiar faces from the town. Even the hardest critics were softening. They lined up, not just to buy confections but to support a vision. But when the sun dipped below the horizon that night, leaving a sky painted in soft purples and pinks, a shadow flickered somewhere in her mind. What if this wasn't enough? Would sweet treats and good intentions really save the center? What if the community pulled together, but it still fell short? As the last crumbs of the day settled, Jamie found herself deep in thought, worry creeping back in. She pressed her palms to her temples in a moment of quiet, heart clenching with apprehension. When would the real battle begin? Could they draw enough attention to make a difference? That night, as she tucked Felix into bed, she whispered a quiet promise to him. "I'll do whatever it takes." The faint sound of his breath filled the silence of the room, a reminder of what was at stake. But the next morning, news broke that would shake the entire town to its core, an unexpected twist that could change everything. Would Jamie be ready for the challenges ahead, or would the weight of it all push her down again? It felt like a storm was brewing, and the question loomed, would she rise with hope amidst the chaos, or would fear take the reins? The morning air felt charged, electric with anticipation. Jamie woke to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. It took her a moment to unravel herself from the warmth of the blankets and blink away the remnants of sleep. But when she glanced at the screen, her heart skipped a beat. The message was from Sarah, the coordinator at the community center. "Urgent news. Please call me ASAP." Instinctively, Jamie's mind raced. Had something happened to the center? Was her dream of revitalizing it already on shaky ground? She dialed Sarah's number, her fingers trembling slightly with worry. "Jamie, I'm glad you called." Sarah's voice rang through, filled with a mix of excitement and stress. "You won't believe the news. We've got a potential grant, a big one. But we need to act fast." Jamie's breath quickened as Sarah detailed the parameters. It was an opportunity funded by a local foundation, aimed at supporting community projects just like theirs. For a moment, hope bloomed fiercely in her chest, eclipsing the shadows of doubt. "This could save everything," she whispered, almost in disbelief. "But there's a catch," Sarah continued, pulling Jamie back to reality. "We need to submit a compelling proposal in less than a week. If we don't, it goes to another project." Talk about pressure. Jamie's mind spun. A proposal? She hadn't the slightest clue where to begin, but one thought shone through the fog of uncertainty. Felix needed this center. "I'm in. What can I do?" she replied, determination seeping back into her tone. As they strategized, Jamie felt all the seeds of her prior efforts falling into place. This was it. The grant could provide the answer to all their prayers. As Sarah laid out the steps they needed to take, Jamie scribbled notes furiously, focusing on who could help: business owners, organizations, even former kids who'd grown up benefiting from the center. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Jamie rallied volunteers and contacted anyone who might help strengthen the proposal. Together, small groups began to gather in her living room, fueled by coffee and determination. Laughter echoed, mixed with the rustle of papers and scattered pens. Yet as positivity swirled, doubt loomed. What if the application wasn't good enough? What if they poured everything into this endeavor only to be met with more disappointment? One evening, as Jamie sifted through feedback from her group, her heart sank. The critiques were valid, but every word felt like another rock added to her tight chest. The fear of letting everyone down clawed at her, and for an instant, she wondered if they should just give up. That night, after tucking Felix into bed, she sat alone in the dim light of the kitchen, feeling the weight of the world settle on her shoulders. Just then, a soft cry came from the baby monitor. She rushed to check on him, scooping him gently into her arms. Felix looked up at her, his big eyes full of innocence and trust, and in that moment, the storm in her mind stilled. She cradled him close, whispering promises of hope, telling him that they would fight for a brighter future together. The next day, as the proposal deadline loomed, Jamie felt a renewed strength coursing through her veins. She gathered the volunteers once more for one final push, channeling all her anxiety into their words. Just when everything seemed to be coming together, a loud crash echoed from outside. They all rushed to the window and froze. A van had collided with a light pole, and amid the chaos, Jamie found herself staring at a face she recognized someone from her past who had connections that could either bring them together or tear them apart. It was time to make a choice. Did she reach out, or did she stand back, letting fear hold her down? The air in the room grew thick with tension. Whatever happened next could change everything. Jamie's heart raced as her eyes locked onto the familiar face outside. It was Matt, the guy from high school, who always had a knack for finding opportunities. They were never particularly close, but she remembered how he spoke passionately about making a difference in people's lives. Had he changed as much as she had? Jamie? Sarah's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Do you know him? Yes, she said, her voice barely a whisper. The memories flooded back, the laughter, the dreams they had shared as teenagers, before life took them in different directions. Should we go out? One of the volunteers suggested, glancing nervously toward the chaos outside. Jamie hesitated. Part of her wanted to remain behind that window, to cling to the solid sense of safety it provided. But then she recalled the urgency of their situation. They needed every resource they could gather, and Matt could be an invaluable link to the connections they were desperately missing. Let us go, Jamie finally decided, her voice steadying with purpose. We can't leave this chance behind. The group followed her out into the crisp air, where the sound of sirens began to approach, mixing with the chaos of voices. Matt was standing beside the van, which now appeared to be broken and smoking. He looked shaken, but his eyes darted around, assessing the scene attentively. Jamie, he exclaimed, spotting her. Relief washed over his features. I didn't expect to see you here. What happened? She asked, stepping closer, her pulse quickening. Just a freak accident, someone lost control, he explained, glancing at the damaged vehicle. I was on my way to check out a community event. Seems like fate brought me here. Fate? She echoed, feeling a flicker of hope. We might need your help with something important. He raised an eyebrow, curiosity piquing. Jamie took a deep breath, laying out the brief details about the grant and their vision for the center. With every word, she felt the weight lift just a bit. Matt nodded, listening intently. Wow. You're still fighting the good fight, Jamie, he said, admiration in his voice. I've got some connections at the foundation. I could reach out and see what they look for in proposals. The words sent a rush of exhilaration through her. Could this really happen? Jamie's mind was a whirl of possibilities. Would you? Definitely. Let me get my phone. He fished it out from his pocket, but before he could dial, he hesitated. But how is your family handling this? You're juggling a lot right now. The question pierced her heart. Everyone had been so focused on the proposal, but what about Felix? Would she be there for him in the midst of this chaos? Felix, she started, pausing to gather her thoughts. He's my motivation. Every late night and every moment of doubt is worth it for him. Matt looked her in the eyes, sincerity written all over his face. You're doing something incredible. Remember that. As he made his call, Jamie felt the relentless pressure of doubt creeping back in. Could they really pull this off? Just then, Sarah approached her, a look of determination etched on her face. No matter what happens, Jamie, we're with you. At that moment, Jamie realized that whoever they were facing, she wasn't alone. The unexpected bond they formed as a team was strong, forged by shared dreams and combined efforts. Matt finished his call and walked back to her, excitement bubbling. I think I can make a real difference for your proposal. Let us get to work. Their group rallied around, inspired by their connection to their visions. But just as they settled back down, an ominous shadow loomed over the gathering. An imposing figure appeared from the crowd. It was a local politician, known for his fierce opinions on community projects. Jamie, he called out, his tone dripping with skepticism. You know, there's more to this funding process than just hope. Jamie felt her stomach twist. What did he mean? Would this be another obstacle? As the group held their breath, Jamie steeled herself. Did she have the courage to stand her ground? Or would fear prevent her from fighting for what she believed in? The air was thick with uncertainty as the stakes heightened. Everything was about to change again, and Jamie needed to decide just how much she was willing to fight for her dreams. The politician's voice cut through the air like a knife, each word a reminder of the uphill battle Jamie faced. She could feel the group's energy shift, their earlier enthusiasm dampening in the face of his criticism. Jamie took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment, and stepped forward to meet his gaze. It's true that hope isn't enough, she began, keeping her voice steady, but it's a starting point. We have to believe in something bigger than ourselves, right? This center could be a haven for those in need. The politician crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. And what makes you think you're up to the task, Jamie? You have dreams, sure, but what about the realities? What about the funding, the impact assessment, the stakeholders? It felt as if the ground shifted beneath her. Jamie's mind raced as she searched for the right words to counter his doubts. She wanted to scream, to tell him that dreams were what drove people, gave them hope, and fueled community. Instead, she found herself fighting tears. Because I care, she said, surprising even herself with the strength in her voice. This is about more than just numbers on a page. It's about families like mine who need support. It's about giving kids a space to learn and grow. The crowd murmured, picking up on her passion. A flicker of connection sparked between Jamie and the people around her. This wasn't just her fight, it was theirs. People in this community are hurting, she continued, her heart racing. I've seen it firsthand. I want to make a difference. We can work together to do that. You talk about realities, let us create a reality where children can play safely, where parents can find resources, and where our community grows stronger together. A flicker of hesitation crossed the politician's face. For a moment it seemed she had reached him, even just a little. The murmurs grew louder, filled with restless hope. Your commitment is commendable, Jamie, he finally said, and Jamie felt a swell of triumph. But commitment doesn't pay for a project of this scale. You'll need a more solid plan. It felt like a punch to the gut. But before Jamie could respond, Matt stepped in beside her, and the group subtly rallied around them, creating a wall of support. Then let us be clear, Matt said, boldly addressing the politician. We'll work on that plan, we'll put in the hours, and we'll bring the right people in. Jamie doesn't stand alone, and we won't back down. I like your passion, kid, the politician said, the skepticism still lingering in his voice. But in politics, passion doesn't get you very far without a strategy. Jamie felt an ember of determination ignite within her. We'll find that strategy. We'll show you what we're capable of. This isn't just about us. It's about everyone we can help. As the crowd murmured its approval, Jamie knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but she wouldn't face them alone. The politician seemed to assess the energy around him, his gaze glancing from Jamie to Matt to their group. All right, Jamie. Show me you're serious. I'll give you a chance to present your plans properly. But remember, I won't make any promises. Jamie nodded, her heart pounding. This was their chance, a stepping stone toward their dreams. The tension in the air eased, and the team surrounded her with encouragement. But just as relief washed over her, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, she saw a message flash across the screen. It was Felix at school, and anxiety surged through her. "Mom, we need to talk. It's important." Jamie's heart sank. What could that possibly mean? In that moment, she realized that while the fight for their center had begun, she was still facing her greatest challenge yet. Would her personal life unravel just as she was gaining ground for the community? Could she handle everything coming her way? With new weight on her shoulders, she looked back at her supporters, their faces a mix of hope and uncertainty, and wondered if she was ready for the turmoil that lay ahead. Jamie felt the buzz of her phone linger in the air like a ghost, haunting her even as she tried to focus on the crowd around her. Her heart pounded, each thump echoing a growing sense of dread. She glanced at the screen again. The simple message felt like a storm warning, ominous and threatening. "Mom, we need to talk. It's important." What did that even mean? Her breath caught in her throat as the crowd around her began to dissipate, but Jamie's footing remained steady. She took a deep breath, forcing her mind back to the fight ahead. Next steps, she thought, clutching the phone tightly as if it might give her some clarity. She turned to Matt, his face full of encouragement. "We can't lose this momentum." He nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. "You're right. Let us start rallying the community. We need to create a proposal, something tangible the politician can grasp." As they began to brainstorm, Jamie's mind drifted back to Felix. He had always been her top priority, her reason to push through even the darkest days. Could she be both the mother he needed and the leader her community required? The stakes felt impossibly high. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke into her thoughts. "You okay?" It was Marissa, one of the women from the community who had joined the fight to support Jamie. Her concern drew Jamie's focus back. "I just got a message from Felix's school. I don't know what is going on." Marissa placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Whatever it is, you'll figure it out. You always do. And we're with you." Hearing those words brought a wave of warmth through Jamie, but the tightness in her chest remained. "Thanks, Marissa. I guess I just feel torn. I want to do right by him, and by everyone else, too. It feels impossible sometimes." "Remember, Jamie," Marissa said with determination in her voice. "You're stronger than you think. You've got a whole community behind you." A flicker of courage ignited within her. Perhaps she could lean on them, just as they leaned on her. The thought gave her a moment of clarity, but the buzzing phone still loomed in her mind like an unanswered question. Determined to balance both sides of her life, Jamie pulled up her phone again and stared at the message. Gritting her teeth, she typed a quick response. "I'll be there soon. Just need to wrap things up." After she sent it, Jamie knew she had to focus on the project. Time was ticking, and everything depended on turning their dreams into reality. "We'll compile a list of resources," she instructed Matt and Marissa. "We'll hit the ground running. Let us contact local businesses for support, and what about possible grants?" As ideas flowed around the small group, Jamie felt herself getting swept up in the excitement again. They were building something together, brick by brick. She could hear the laughter of children outside, the sound a reminder of why they were all there. But just as they began to draft their plan, Jamie's phone buzzed again, and her heart fell. Another message from school, just as sharp as the first. "Please come as soon as possible." Jamie's mind went into overdrive, fear tightening its grip on her heart. What if something was wrong? A million scenarios unraveled in her head, each more devastating than the last. "Excuse me, I need to." But her voice trailed off as she made her way toward the exit, an urgent need to know overriding her desire to stay. What awaited her at the school? Was it a small issue, or something far more serious? As she opened the door, the cool breeze hit her face, and for a moment, she let it wash over her. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could face whatever lay ahead armed with the strength of her community and the love for her son. But would it be enough? With her mind racing and the stakes higher than ever, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that her world was about to change in unexpected ways. The school loomed ahead like a fortress, its brick walls standing steady against the threat of uncertainty that churned inside Jamie. Her heart raced as she hurried toward the entrance. Each step felt heavy, as if the very ground was trying to weigh her down with dread. She pushed through the doors, the familiar sounds of children's laughter now twisted with an undercurrent of anxiety. "Jamie!" A voice called from the hallway. It was Miss Thompson, Felix's teacher. Her face was lined with concern. "Thank goodness you're here. What happened?" Jamie asked, panic creeping into her voice as she followed Miss Thompson down the hall. "Felix was involved in an incident on the playground. Yes, all right, but we need to talk." Miss Thompson's words hung in the air, ambiguous and chilling. There was a moment of silence, a moment that felt like a lifetime. Jamie's mind raced with images of what could have happened. Had he fallen? Been hurt by another child? They entered the school's small conference room, a space filled with mismatched furniture and brightly colored posters that felt painfully innocent amidst Jamie's turmoil. Felix sat at the far end, his small body hunched over, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Mom," he said, glancing up with wide, fearful eyes. She rushed to his side, her instinct to protect overwhelming her. "I'm here, Felix. What's wrong?" "Someone pushed me," he whispered, barely holding back tears. "I didn't want to fight, but I hit them back." A flood of relief washed over Jamie, only to be replaced by a new wave of concern. "Did you hurt anyone?" He shook his head, and Miss Thompson interjected. "They're just shaken up. They'll both be fine, but we can't ignore what happened." "Right," Jamie replied, her heart still in turmoil. "What needs to be done?" "This is a teaching moment," Miss Thompson said gently. "We need to work together to teach conflict resolution and help them both understand their emotions." Felix looked up at Jamie, his eyes searching for assurance. "Am I in trouble?" "Absolutely not," Jamie said firmly, embracing him tightly. "You are brave for standing up for yourself, but we'll work on other ways to handle these situations." She felt a rush, a surge of empowerment. The fear that enveloped her only moments before seemed to dissolve in the presence of her son's need. Through him, she found the courage she sought. Perhaps this small incident was a reflection of growth, a moment they could seize to shape their journey together. "I'll talk to the other child's parents, and we'll create an open dialogue," Miss Thompson said, her voice calm and steady. "This isn't just about discipline, but about understanding." Jamie nodded, appreciation blooming within her. They were a team, uniting for the sake of their children. As they left the school, Jamie's thoughts raced once again. The incident shook her, but also lit a fire in her chest. She could use this moment not just to support her son, but also to fortify the community she was building with Matt and Marissa. But then her phone buzzed again. A new message from the community group. "We've hit a snag. The politician is hesitant." Jamie's heart dropped. The urgency to address the school incident mingled painfully with the need to ignite change in her community. Walking out into the crisp air, she halted. She felt the weight of both worlds pressing against her. How was she to manage it? Finding her voice, Jamie took Felix's hand and squeezed it tightly. "Together, we can take on anything, right?" "Right," he replied, a weak smile breaking through his earlier fears. But deep inside, Jamie struggled with the overwhelming swirl of responsibilities. Faced with the realities ahead, she knew she had to act swiftly before everything she worked for could slip through her fingers. How could she rally her strength, fight for her son, and ignite a movement in her community in the midst of such chaos? The challenge ahead seemed insurmountable, yet the fight was far from over. Would she find a way to turn the tides in her favor? Jamie took a deep breath, trying to push aside the whirlwind of thoughts clamoring for her attention. The schoolyard buzzed with energy, children tumbling and laughing, their carefree spirits a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling inside her. As she walked toward the parking lot, Felix's small hand in hers grounded her. He was her priority. She couldn't let the weight of the community's struggle eclipse the need to directly support him. "Mom, do you think they'll be okay?" Felix's voice broke through her thoughts, and she looked down to see anxiety creeping back into his expression. "We're going to work through this together," she said, smiling to reassure him. You showed bravery today, she added, and his eyes sparkled slightly at her words, the light of understanding flickering back into his gaze. They got into the car, and Jamie turned on the radio, letting the music wash over them. It was a mix of familiar songs. Each note reminded her of the little joys amidst the chaos. But the weight of the knot in her stomach remained, her mind drifting back to the message from the community group. Let us go for ice cream after this, she suggested, hoping to ease the tension building inside both of them. Chocolate chip cookie dough? Felix asked, pepping up at the thought. Absolutely, Jamie grinned. Extra sprinkles, just for you. As they drove, the world outside blurred. Jamie's mind raced ahead, imagining meetings with community leaders, drafting new proposals, and finding ways to create lasting change. She needed to breathe life into her ideas, ensure their voices were heard. But first, she had to tackle today's struggle with Felix and the incident at school. Once they reached home, Jamie settled into a warm embrace with Felix, both of them sinking into the comfort of their routine. She crafted their evening with moments of softness, stories, silly riddles, and laughter echoing through the walls. It was a temporary balm for her worries, but the looming conversations flickered at the edges of her thoughts. By the time Felix was tucked into bed, she could hear the clock ticking, a reminder that time was slipping through her fingers while demands waited for her attention. Bob, her neighbor and an active member of the community group, knocked gently at her door, breaking through the cocoon of her immediate sanctuary.
Hey.
Just checking in. We need you at the meeting tomorrow, he said, a mixture of urgency and concern in his voice. Jamie nodded slowly, already feeling her heart race again. I know. I want to make sure everything is right for Felix too. Bob leaned in, lowering his voice. It's all connected, Jamie. The community is struggling. If you step up, it'll help him too. Kids know when their parents care. His words resonated deeply. She wanted to be that role model for Felix, the one who taught him how to advocate for himself and others. You're right, she whispered, determination creeping back into her voice. As Bob left, Jamie stood in the doorway for a moment, staring into the night sky. The stars twinkled above like distant dreams waiting to be grasped. She could feel the weight of responsibility, but with that weight came purpose. Tomorrow would be a turning point. She would face the community, face her worries, and find a way to merge her fight for change with her role as a mother. She turned to head back inside. Her phone buzzed once more, a notification from the community group. Meeting change. New venue. Bigger audience. Jamie paused, heart racing. This was it. The moment could amplify her cause, or unravel everything. Would she find the voice to unite everyone and make a difference? The night felt charged with possibility, the challenge ahead clear now. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs with determination. Tomorrow was not just another day, it was the pivotal moment she had been waiting for. Could she truly rally everyone and make a lasting impact? Or would she falter under the weight of expectation? The morning sunlight poured through the window, spilling golden light across Jamie's kitchen. She was up early, heart racing with anticipation and anxiety.
Today was the day.
She had only a few hours until she would step into that larger meeting. The thought of the crowd sent a jolt of nerves through her, but she couldn't falter now. Felix wandered into the kitchen, bleary-eyed and yawning. "What's for breakfast, Mom?" he asked, still half asleep. "Pancakes," Jamie replied, mustering more enthusiasm than she felt. The thought of feeding Felix filled her with warmth. She flipped the pancakes, letting the sound of the sizzling batter comfort her. "Can we put chocolate chips in them?" Felix's voice was sweet, innocent, a reminder of the simple joys they shared. Of course. Jamie couldn't help but smile as she tossed a handful of chocolate chips into the mix. Seeing Felix's excitement over a tiny treat felt like a victory amidst a tempest. As they enjoyed breakfast together, the cafe-like ambience filled her with nostalgia. They laughed, shared silly stories, and for a moment, it felt as if the weight of the world had lifted. But in the corner of her mind, the meeting loomed like a storm cloud. After breakfast, while Felix entertained himself with his toys, Jamie scrolled through her phone, reviewing last-minute notes and community messages. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. The words were meant to banish that lingering doubt. Felix wandered over and peered at the screen. "What's that, Mom?" "It's about the meeting. I'm helping the community, and that helps us too," she replied, hoping her conviction would be enough to convince him. His face scrunched up in thought. "But are you going to be okay? You look stressed." The concern in his tiny voice struck her hard. He could feel her tension. "I'll be great, buddy. Just a little nervous. But I can do this." "We can do this together," she said, focusing on the together part. It was important for Felix to know that this was a collective effort. After Felix went off to play again, Jamie returned to her notes. The community group had sent out updates. She had plenty of ideas on how to address their issues, but it felt daunting to present them to a bigger audience. What if no one listened? What if they didn't believe in her vision? She shook her head, trying to dismiss those thoughts. The change they sought was bigger than her. It was for Felix, for the kids in their neighborhood, for everyone who felt lost or unheard. She took a deep breath, and the air felt electric, charged with possibility. "What time is the meeting?" Felix called from the other room. "Soon. I need to leave in a bit," she replied, bracing herself for the next step. As she packed her bag, Felix clutched a piece of paper. "Mom, I made a sign for you." His little face beamed with pride, and he handed her a crayon drawing that read, "You can do it, Mommy." Tears stung her eyes as she knelt down beside him. "This is perfect, Felix. Thank you." She hugged him tightly, forcing herself to focus on the joy he brought her. The clock ticked down, and soon it was time to leave. Jamie stepped into the crisp air and felt the weight of her responsibilities settle on her shoulders again. But there was no turning back now. Behind the wheel, her heartbeat quickened. What if she stumbled on her words? What if they didn't respond the way she hoped? She gripped the steering wheel tighter, pushing through her fears. Arriving at the new venue filled her with a mix of dread and excitement. The crowd was already gathering outside, and every face felt like a question mark. As she stepped out of the car, she noticed a few familiar, friendly faces. They waved, encouraging her, reminding her why she was there. Yet, as she approached the entrance, a feeling of doubt crept back in, threatening to overshadow her confidence. Could she really inspire change? Steeling herself, she took a deep breath and stepped into the light, ready to face what awaited her, not just for herself, but for Felix and everyone depending on her. The moment of truth would arrive soon, but would she be able to turn that moment into something powerful? As Jamie walked into the community center, her heart raced. The room buzzed with voices, a mix of skepticism and hope that filled the air. She scanned the space, recognizing familiar faces of supporters and skeptics alike. This was it. Taking her place at the front, she felt the weight of every pair of eyes on her. She cleared her throat, feeling the familiar wave of doubt threaten to crash over her. But then she saw Felix's drawing clutched tightly in her hand, those bright words of encouragement igniting a spark within her. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steadying as she spoke. "This center means everything to our community. It's more than just a building to me, it's a beacon of hope for our children." A few nods of agreement rippled through the crowd, bolstering her courage. "I know there are challenges," she continued, her gaze locking onto the local politician standing with arms crossed, a smirk on his face. "But together, we can face any challenge. I refuse to let doubt dictate our future." The murmurs grew louder, catching fire as she poured her heart into her words. "I've met so many of you, your stories, your struggles. They resonate with me. Every late night I spend crafting proposals, every ounce of energy I pour into this fight is for our kids, like my son Felix." She gestured to the drawing, holding it up for everyone to see. "This is what drives me. It's not just about numbers or policies, it's about lives. Every child deserves a safe space to learn, to grow, to dream." A palpable shift filled the room, a softening in the skeptic's demeanor, a kind of unity beginning to form. Jamie took a deep breath, sensing the momentum building. "We have a chance now with the grant to revitalize the center. But I need your support. I need us all to come together." She could see eyes widen, particularly among the younger parents and old friends who knew the struggles she faced. Jamie pushed through the lingering fear, her voice rising above the noise. If we stand united, we can show the world that our community thrives on love and resilience. The room erupted into cheers, and that smirk on the politician's face began to fade. Jamie embraced the energy flowing through the crowd, her heart swelling with a fierce hope. This wasn't just a speech, it was a call to arms, a collective belief in change. Let us turn dreams into reality, she exclaimed. As she stepped down, people rallied around her. Hugs, handshakes, and laughter filled the air, but Jamie's eyes searched for one familiar face, her son. When she spotted Felix at the back, a beaming smile spread across his face. She rushed over, kneeling to his level, tears pooling in her eyes. Did you hear that? We might really do it. You did it, Mommy. You were amazing, he exclaimed, wrapping his tiny arms around her. At that moment, the world faded away. She was just Jamie, a mother driven by love, surrounded by a community rallying together. Hope flourished as they left the meeting, a newfound sense of purpose igniting their next steps. They would work together, raise funds, and bring life back to the center together. In the following weeks, they hosted bake sales, car washes, and community events that transformed their makeshift dreams into a movement. Slowly but steadily, they gathered support, and the grant proposal began to take shape. Jamie felt herself grow alongside her community, each day filled with laughter, connection, and shared struggles. On the day they received the grant approval, Jamie stood with Felix in her arms, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had done it not just for herself, but for him, for every child in the community. As she looked around at the faces of those who supported her, she realized that the love she had poured into this fight bore fruit. She was no longer just their champion. She was part of something so much bigger, a family. A community binding together under the unwavering truth. Hope can change everything. They built a new chapter with resilience, love, and a promise that no one would be left behind. This was just the beginning.
If
you're moved by Jamie's incredible transformation, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more inspiring stories like this. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. And remember to leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your feelings about this ending. Your engagement means the world.